Hey everyone, welcome back to your week ahead astrology breakdown. I'm Matthew Oliver with Stillwater Alchemy, and this week we are coming off the heels of that Aquarius new moon. Lots of change, lots of integration, lots of potential for rapid movement with the transits. So, at the start, a couple of announcements. This will be my final week ahead astrology breakdown, and the Aquarius New Moon workshop was the last workshop of that nature that I will be creating at this time. And this is not a decision I made lightly. I put a lot of thought and consideration, but we have Pluto to thank. When it moved into Aquarius 3 weeks ago, there was a lot that was coming up. I'm sure many of you felt it in terms of certain areas of your life, or maybe all areas of your life. But it gave me time to really ponder and consider everything, especially when I was in New York when this took place. And it's funny when you do this type of work and you thought that you went pretty deep. And then Pluto's like, you can go deeper. And you're like, I don't know if I can go deeper. It's like, nope, we go deeper. And I'm a firm believer how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I know intuitively there's ways for this content to be expanded upon, ways for this content to be elevated. So I'm just going to take some time to fully integrate, to coordinate with my team on how this new content that I can bring to everyone at a higher frequency, at a higher level will play out. So with that being said, we shall make this week ahead astrology breakdown fabulous and infused with lots of love. And if you want to stay tuned for the reveal of this new type of content when it becomes fully formed, you can sign on for my newsletter on Stillwater Alchemy's website. And I also just want to take a moment to thank everyone, the entire community, all the lovely comments, all the victories of the week, all the passion, everything. And this is also an invitation if you feel called to engage with Pluto's energy and to release and to let go of certain energies, mindsets, relationships, anything that's no longer serving you. Excuse me, or anything that needs to be said with that cough in good timing, that this can be an opportunity for you to fully step into that. I think with this Aquarius energy, with the Aquarius new moon, with Pluto and Aquarius, there is massive potential for you to recalibrate, to rethink, to continue forward in a way that maybe you've never done before. And one thing to take note of is that when we have a certain identity in whatever it is, with family, with friends, in career, in community, whatever that is, and we're stepping away from that, one, it takes great courage because now you're fully committing to something completely brand new, potentially something you've never done before, which also then means there is an ego death that has to take place because your identity or how people view you, how you view yourself is completely changed, which is very scary to the ego. We know this. So if some of you are wavering in between old paradigms and new paradigms, give yourself grace, but also realize that that potential to shift is going to be very amplified, especially this week, as we will get to. Other announcements for the next 3 days, you can save 14% off any product or service on Stillwater Alchemy's website using the promo code Valentine. And I'm also opening up one question readings. So you can use the promo code there on any of the readings, anything that I have on the website. It'll be available until end of day, Wednesday, February 14th. Okay. And I think that's everything for now. Stay tuned for more. And I'll still be posting content across all platforms. And I'm excited to see where everything unfolds. Now, for greatest victory of the week, I have 3 because these are all really good. And I'm also thinking it's very aligned that this last week ahead breakdown is ending with Aquarius season because we have Pisces season starting next Monday. So it's all very aligned. And I just think that when we get to Pisces season, not this week, but next week, it'll be a time where your emotions are going to allow you to pivot, or where you've done the healing and now you're coming out of that womb, or you're coming out of the chrysalis, so to speak, right? Because Aries season marks a new energetic year. So if you're feeling like you're straddling these two worlds, these two identities, there's no need to put pressure on yourself or to feel like it has to happen this week or whatever the timeline is, because when we get to Pisces season, that will be the full end of a cycle, beginning of a new one as well. So going on to the greatest victories of the week. First, we have from Sarah. Hey, Sarah. I realized my greatest victory of the week was my daughter's birthday. Of course, it was amazing because I love celebrating my children and seeing them so happy playing with friends. But the greatest victory is me playing out my dream of building a community. Very Aquarius vibes. When I was planning the party, I was inviting all my favorite people, and they all showed up. I proved to myself that I do have the support I have always dreamed of, and it was an amazing day having them all over at my house at the same time. The energy of the party was 10 out of 10. So proud of myself for creating this for myself and my family. Snaps for Sarah. And this is also something too that I feel plays really well into Aquarius energy, is the power of the mind, right? If we know and we believe and we are cultivating whatever dream, whatever frequency, whatever desire, and then when we see it play out verbatim, or when we see it play out better than expected, we now create new evidence for that paradigm, for that belief, knowing that it's safe for us to have more. It's safe for us to receive more love. It's safe for us to have everything that we ever wanted. We don't have to be scared that it's going to slip away, not work. Someone's going to do something to derail it. It's like, nope, this is a new energetic minimum, and we get to go up from here. Love. Next comes from Sanctuary Within You. Win of a lifetime. 1 month ago today, I met the man that I've been envisioning with clear detail in highest standard of everything. My complete dream. Within 2 weeks, he had blown the dream and energy of that dream that I had since 2005 out of the water. He is more. Last week, I opened a door within me that led to a conversation with my sister. She was open back, and we started a heart-led journey to a loving relationship that we haven't had in 2 decades since our mom and other sister passed away. Last week, I maybe made the biggest financial decision of my life so far, which led to an amazing feeling of freedom. And as an immediate result, abundance flowing in, all because of my work within, tenacity beyond measure, and because of my purpose to evolve through pure love. Woo! Snaps for Christina. And in this, we also get to see that great detail, things that we have mapped out, things that we have been calling in for decades. The work always works, period. And if we're consistent with our tenacity, we're consistent with the love, we're consistent with the faith, as this was pointed out, it gets to be better than we could have imagined. So love that. And this last one came from the comments of the Aquarius New Moon workshop, but it really plays into this, and it's a good note and a thread with Pluto in Aquarius and this new moon in Aquarius that we just had. This was amazing. I'm a Sag rising, so Aquarius is my 3rd house, and Jupiter is in my 6th house in Taurus. I got offered a totally unexpected promotion this week. It's a much bigger role, and my initial gut reaction was, whoa, no, I can't. It's too big, too hard, it'll be too much. But now I'm starting to maybe consider it. I also totally resonated with the gym analogy and how far I've come in the aspect as well. So much fitter and stronger than this time last year. I always like to use gym analogies, and there may have been one in the Aquarius New Moon workshop. And this also, too, I wanted to point out because I had this conversation just like 10 minutes ago with my assistant, Angel, Camille. You wouldn't have attracted that opportunity, that relationship, that financial blessing if you weren't an energetic match. It's literally impossible. The fact that you attracted it, whether it be unexpectedly, whether it be intentional, whether it be through great resolve, you wouldn't have attracted that blessing if you weren't an energetic match for it. And again, this is also very resonant of Uranus being in Taurus and the moon and the sun during that Aquarius new moon making a square to Uranus as well. So something that's unexpected, something that may seem very abrupt or out of nowhere for the individual or someone in that interaction, right? Even me stating that this content is no longer going to be in the same format. What I wanted to say with this as well is if it seems like it's too much or that it's really intense, that also lends itself to Pluto in the sense of that old version of you who maybe didn't think that you could handle that power, that responsibility, that money, that love is dying. And that's not something to be said lightly, because when we have a physical death in our life, whether it be a person, a pet, whomever, we go through a mourning process. There's a lot that takes place in and around that death. When you have an ego death, it's the exact same thing. And I personally think that sometimes when you do get really sick, or when you have an injury, or when something happens that physically enables you from moving, that your body is processing so much. And it can be like, oh yeah, my body's doing this, my body's doing it. It's like, no, you're physically not able to move forward. Just like when you're processing grief or a death, you're likely not moving. You're taking time off work. You're just being with your close loved ones, and you're processing this death. You're processing this old identity of who you used to be in a relationship, at work, in family, whatever that is. So why I'm emphasizing this is because I want you all to know, given that we just had a major Pluto transit that was also activated by this Aquarius new moon, that was also then part of the lunar new year, so much is changing and it can be a lot. So to give yourself extra grace, to give yourself extra time, to give yourself extra support, so that hearing these victories, knowing what is shifting, knowing what's coming in, you can get excited about the process. You can understand the phase or whatever season you're in to then make space for more. To add to my greatest victory, I cemented this idea of how I want to reshape content and the timeline that's going to be approximated on. And then literally today, I had two opportunities land on my lap that I've been manifesting. One had been manifesting for like a year. The other one I've been manifesting for a while. So again, closing one chapter to then make space for more, it can literally come in that quickly. So then there's no time for the ego to go rampant or to have all these fears or doubts when you're literally seeing these opportunities align with what you've always wanted. All right. So with that being said, let's jump in to the transits this week. So we start off on Monday, February 12th. So this is the final week of Aquarius season. And we have the moon in Aries. This is important because, as we can see, there's no other planets in fire signs, and Aries is cardinal fire. And the moon is also making a sextile to Pluto and is moving into that crescent moon phase out of the new moon phase. So this seems like fully charged batteries. You're ready to go. Like, I'm not sure if any of you like still use batteries, probably in some capacity, maybe not. But when you fully put that battery in and you can use the remote, the Game Boy, whatever it is, like now we're ready to go. Like the batteries are fully charged. We know what we can do. We know what we want. There's this initiatory energy that also gives a lot of focus, given that the moon is making this applied sextile to Mercury. It can also be a shift in health, a shift in mindset, a shift in a relationship, or just a shift in what you want to become, because the moon is also making this energy with the North Node in terms of identity, in terms of who you want to be. And if you want to get more specific on where this identity or this initiatory energy is going to be taking place on Monday, then you can also look to the houses in which Aries and Aquarius are in your chart, because then that will be a really good way to being like, oh, I feel really called to focus on my work and my health. And it's like, oh yeah, like Aries rules my sixth house. Or maybe you're feeling called to really study and do some work on parts of your career, parts of your business, or even just pleasure. Maybe you're going to want to learn a language. Maybe the ninth house is being activated. This will just give you a clue on where the energy can form. I do think personally it's going to be very loud, very obvious, because we also have Mars finishing up its transit in Capricorn before then it moves into Aquarius tomorrow. So I'm not sure if any of you have been feeling this kind of passionate, romantic energy. Venus is catching up to Mars. Excuse me. Or maybe you've been wanting to express yourself lovingly or to put yourself out there. So don't forget to express yourself. That can also be this energy of the moon in Aries making the sextiles to Mercury and Pluto. If there's someone or something that you want to talk to, and this can even be like journal prompts or writing a letter to money, writing a letter to your dream job, and just getting very clear and mapping that out. You might not have romantic love on the mind, but you might have financial love. You might have love towards a new home, whatever it is. Speak to that energy or speak to that person and get like, just be very honest, be very truthful, because that's where Pluto comes in. And the Mars, the passion, the drive, we're going to see come in on Tuesday. So we then have Mars and Pluto at 0 degrees in Aquarius. So we've already been seeing this for the past couple of weeks, how that Aquarius ruled part of your natal chart is getting very, very activated. And I had someone ask in the Aquarius new moon workshop, they said, oh, what happens if I don't have any planets in Aquarius? Does that mean that the new moon will still affect me? Or does this mean that these transits will still affect me? Very much so. I often find that if you have a house that doesn't have any planets, then sometimes that's the best case scenario. Because let's say you have your natal Mars or your natal Saturn in a certain house. Not that that's bad, but when you have all these house guests coming into that part of your chart, it's like they're answering to or having to connect with that planet, because that planet resides there. That planet is like a landlord or a permanent guest in that house. So if there's no one there, then all of these people, it's like an Airbnb or a rental property. It's like all the people that come into the house, it's their own energy. You're fully going to feel that energy unbridled or untethered to anything else going on in that house in your natal chart. I trust that that analogy lands. Why I'm saying that is because in that Aquarius part of your natal chart, this Mars Pluto activation is likely to drive home some of the things I've already been talking about at the start of this breakdown in terms of identity, in terms of passion, in terms of death and rebirth. One thing that you can also look to for those of you a bit more advanced in your astrology studies is look to the houses in your chart ruled by Aries and ruled by Scorpio, because Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio and Aries. And given that Mars is conjunct Pluto, those houses in your chart are going to be very, very activated. And we already saw how the Aries house is going to be activated with this moon energy. And then we also see the moon in Aries is conjunct Chiron and the North Node. So this also for me is like looking at parts of yourself that may be wounded. You might have insecurities, you might have doubts, but moving past that and going to the other side and saying, no matter how many times I may have fallen in the past, I'm still choosing to rise. I'm still choosing to fight. I'm still choosing to have courage. I'm still choosing to give it my all, because I know that it's possible. I know that this is mine. I know this is my birthright. I know this is my dream. And I know that sounds intense and it sounds like a lot, but hello, Mars conjunct Pluto. This isn't for necessarily like frivolousness or something light. And this might even be more internal. This also might be something that's happening in your mind where these shifts and this recalibration is happening. And I made this comment in the Aquarius New Moon workshop, which is free. It's on Stillwater's YouTube page. I'll put that link in the description. If you feel called to have a conversation or to talk this out, or like I said, write a letter, that is going to be very helpful for you to just get out of your head and move it back into your body. Because with the moon in Aries, your body is going to be very clear, very loud on what it wants. And maybe it'll just be like something seemingly silly. Like it's like, oh, I really am craving pickles right now. Or I really want to wear this sweater. Or I really want to watch this movie and cry. Whatever it is, trust that deep knowing or what your body is trying to tell you. Because we also have the moon coming off of the sextile from Mercury on Tuesday and then making that applied sextile to the moon. And now the moon is in its first quarter moon phase, that crescent, pardon me, the first crescent moon phase. Yes. So with the crescent moon phase happening shortly after this Aquarius new moon activation, there's something that's sprouting. There's something that is growing. There's something that's feeling good and harmonious that's coming through. So allow that new energy and this new cycle to come through and allow anything else that is no longer aligned to leave. And Mars does represent separation. It represents cutting. It represents fighting for what you want. So with Pluto, one of the key aspects is death and rebirth. So if you want to fight for something in your life or maybe an area in your chart that's ruled by Scorpio or Aries, then something has to be separated. Something has to be let go for you then to have more energy to fight in this arena or in this battle or in this academic pursuit, whatever it may be, right? So just be honest with yourself on Tuesday and don't allow past fears, past obstacles, past setbacks to deter you. And moving forward, knowing that all of these blessings are coming, especially because we have Venus about to enter the chat in Aquarius, which we shall get to. When we get to Wednesday, we now have the moon exalted in Taurus conjunct Jupiter. And the moon is also making that square to Pluto and Mars, and also making a sextile to Saturn. So this might be a situation where you are now expressing your needs, your wants, expressing your truth to certain people to then set the boundaries that are needed for the expansion to occur. Generally speaking, this Moon-Jupiter conjunction that we get in Taurus is very, very beautiful. It'll either feel good on a physical sense, on a mental sense. And we also want to remember that Jupiter has a very capable healing quality. It's like when you get a diagnosis from a doctor and your whole body just knows that that's the right diagnosis. Or when you eat really beautiful food and your body just feels so nourished. That for me is like a moon Jupiter aspect, especially in Taurus, where you know on a physical, mental, and spiritual level that what you're taking in, what you're receiving is for your body's highest good. It's like when you're on a really great date and the chemistry is just there and it's like any anxiety or fear of it not going well is like that is just completely left the chat because this feels so good. Or when you put an outfit on and you don't even need to look in the mirror when you're at the store, it's like, no, like I know this already fits so perfectly on my body. That's the vibe here. With this energy of the moon, Pluto in aspect to Pluto and Mars, one thing to take note of is that the moon moves relatively quickly. So the intensity coming from Pluto and Mars will be less and less as the day goes on, less intense, I should say. And it'll get easier and easier because the moon comes into this embrace with Jupiter. The one thing I will say, though, is that for some of you, this might be something to do with your health, with your body, with nutrition, with the home, with a relationship, because again, whenever we have a square aspect, it denotes something that might be uncomfortable or something needs to change. And we're also in this sense of the crescent moon moving into the first quarter moon phase. So something will have to shift. Something is likely to change. And Taurus is a fixed energy. So is Aquarius. Sometimes fixed energy is resistant to change or is not comfortable with change. But I implore you to note, is the lack of change or the fear of change actually more painful than the change or the shift itself? And if so, trust that you're going to have the right words, the right conversations, the right opportunities to have the experience of letting something or someone go to welcome in more healing and nourishment. Because that's likely to come through on Wednesday and also Tuesday for that matter, when Mars enters Aquarius. This would be the ample time to book in a session with a therapist, with a coach, with a healer, or to make intentional time to connect with a loved one and say, hey, I would just love if you have time to hold space for me because I've been going through a lot and I would just like to have someone to talk to who I can trust. If you need that extra support, Tuesday, Wednesday would be very, very ideal days. And if you don't have that opportunity, then making sure you have intentional time with yourself to journal, to meditate, to get grounded will help you make these discerning shifts in your life. All right. Thursday, we see that the moon is conjunct Uranus. The moon is also making a square to Mercury. This might also be a day where if you put off having that intentional soul reflection, or if you put off having a conversation with a loved one or a boss or someone, that it might just happen for you. It's like, okay, like you can do it the easy way or the hard way. And now you have resisted out of fear or doubt. And now this conversation is going to happen no matter what. So I'd rather you take that power back when the moon is making that conjunction to Jupiter, or even when the moon is in Aries, to have those heart to hearts or to have that conversation versus moon Uranus, moon square Jupiter. This would also be a time too, if you are feeling a certain type of way in terms of anxious, stressed, frustrated, to not project that onto other people. This might also be a day too where you're feeling a little unhinged or unsafe or unsure, and your mind can just be running on a hamster wheel of looking at all the things that could go wrong. And this can also be for the people that do and know they're on the right path. And this can just be a bit of a contraction moment where it's what if, what if, what if. And this energy will get easier throughout the day. Like once the moon crosses that conjunction with Uranus and gets closer to the it gets closer to the sextile with Neptune, I feel like it'll be a bit easier, but just be very cautious of your mind and allowing that ego to get the better of you, because this is just, again, a moment where those emotions have to come up. And we're talking like, I know for me, even over the past couple of weeks, and when these types of transits happen, these can be triggers or emotions that have been there your entire life. And you're like, whoa, I thought I already worked through this. I thought I already had a handle on this trigger, this trauma, this pain, this vice, whatever it is. And it can just be out of the blue, like something that someone says on the subway, a news article, whatever it might, like something on social media. And that's why it's going to be very beneficial if you are grounded, that it's less likely to blindside you or knock you off kilter, so to speak. Now, Friday, we can see that the moon is now making that separating sextile to Neptune, leaving that square to the sun. And this just feels like the moon in Taurus can breathe a little bit more and have a bit more confidence. This also kind of feels like, when you are going through a challenging day and then you see an angel number or you see $1 on the ground, or you just get a very clear intuitive download. Friday feels like that hump of like, okay, like I went through the contraction. I know what I have to do. And I'm feeling more secure in my body of how that's going to play out. We can also see that Friday, which is Venus's day, that Venus is now ingressed into Aquarius, is now conjunct Pluto. So Pluto is getting to have a little bit of a kiki with both Mars and Venus. And like I said before, that you can look at the houses in which Aries and Scorpio are ruled. Now with Venus conjunct Pluto, you can look at the houses ruled by Libra and Taurus, and knowing that that Taurus house has been activated in terms of those Pluto themes of death and rebirth, truth, power, obsession, transformation, that those houses are going to be up for review. And we can see that the moon is at 28 degrees of Taurus starting at 9 a.m. Pacific on Friday. So a couple hours later, the moon is going to move into Gemini. We can even just show this here. So at around noon, The moon enters Gemini and is immediately making a trine to Venus, Pluto, and Mars. For me, take this if it resonates. This would be like one of the best times to go out clubbing, going out to a nice lounge, shooting your shot romantic. Like if you're wanting to cultivate romance, or if you're wanting to be seen, or if you're wanting to cultivate more power, go out and do something Venusian on Friday. And if you not like, it can even just be you being in a really nice environment. It could be a nice park, a nice library, a nice coffee shop. Being in an environment where you can be social or engage in conversation, or maybe you're just like shy in your temperament, and that's fine, but maybe you'll have the courage to like compliment someone on what they're wearing, or like engage with a really cute puppy and like talk to its owner, and then maybe the owner is also cute, and then you get to have a conversation with them. But engaging in this air, which can also evoke creativity, which can evoke passion, which can also lead you to a greater purpose or identity, please, please, please allow yourself to just engage in something that is pleasurable, dynamic, passionate, and something that is going to maybe push you outside of your comfort zone to cultivate more of these Venusian topics. All right. Now, if we just scale this back to 9 a.m., what I also want to say is that Venus is now getting closer and closer to Mars. That exact conjunction will happen next week. Why this is important is because Mars and Venus don't meet up regularly. It's around like every 2 years. So with that being said, and with Pluto being sandwiched in the middle and both Mars and Venus connecting with Pluto, it's going to be so obvious what brings love, what brings passion in your life, and what doesn't. And the things that don't, it might be very scary. And I'm not saying you have to completely cut off these things. What I'm saying is there has to be a way that it is going to evolve so that you're not showing up. So let's say you are helping a sibling with their child. You're helping babysit, you're helping taking him to school and back, but now it's affecting your work. And maybe you're getting a promotion, or maybe you want to go back to school and you're like, I can't pick up and drop off the child anymore. I still want to be supportive. I still want to be able to help you, but I can't keep doing the same responsibilities. It's not saying you're stopping altogether, but those responsibilities are going to shift. Ways that you show up are going to end, which is then going to allow for other opportunities and other support for the child, other opportunities for you, the individual, and for the parent, all to evolve and all for them to show up in different ways and how they're meant to grow. For some, in that hypothetical situation, you may also say, I need to take a step back from helping you with this child for me to then move because I got accepted to do a specialty program in another country. And that might always have been a dream for you. And that can be a very harsh separation. That can be another energy of Mars being like, this needs to end. So I can then engage in a very Venusian energy. So it's going to bring me a lot of passion by going to this different country. So I'm giving these hypotheticals because I think that sometimes when we're faced with these major life altering decisions, it can be a lot. It can be overwhelming. And you're like, what's going on? Or how can I help to understand this energy that's coming at me? And when you know there's a major Mars, Venus, Pluto, key going on, it can really help to understand that. And again, too, as we saw with the moon moving into Gemini and even moving into Saturday, moon and Gemini making that trine to Mercury, it's just exponentially going to help if you can voice these words. And we even had in some of the greatest victories of the week of this fellowship, of this community, of bonds with siblings, and these open conversations leading to beautiful revelations, leading to expansion of love, leading to dreams coming true. And yes, the moon is making a square to Saturn. However, that square to Saturn can also just represent boundaries. It can also represent being like, I have so many obligations or so many things I want to do, but there's only so many hours in a day. So who do I need to talk to gain support? Who do I need to talk to revise my responsibilities so that I can allow this beautiful air energy, I can allow my creativity, I can allow my innovation to flow in new, contained, safe ways moving forward. And that energy is also going to flow into Sunday when we also have the moon in Gemini making that trine to the sun. And it's the final day of Aquarius season. And as you can see, with Venus's ingress into Aquarius on Friday, there's now 5 planets in Aquarius. This is going to be really exciting for those of you that have dominant air energy in your chart. So as a reminder, the air signs are Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. And with that being said, for all of my fixed sign angels, the fixed signs being Aquarius, Scorpio, Leo, and Taurus, you're also going to see massive shifts and expansion and activation in your life this week. So I just wanted that to be clear because, as I mentioned at the start of this breakdown, it's likely that no matter what your chart is, there's going to be some type of activation. There's going to be some type of shift in your life. And knowing this ahead of time is going to allow you to map things out and to be ready for it. And with Pluto being strongly activated, with Uranus also being in the mix, this is also an opportunity where these quick, unexpected, beautiful things can just land on your lap. And as a reminder, many of you watching are already doing the work. You've already been cultivating this internally. You've been building that frequency. You've been building the foundation for these opportunities to land. So I don't want you to second guess or to doubt yourself because these opportunities are coming in for a reason. It might not mean that you take them, but it means that it allows you to reconsider what's currently going on in your life and what you're capable of attracting moving forward. All right. Boom. For our final astrology question of the week, I have been getting a lot of questions about Pluto and Aquarius and how you can further understand that and how that's been shifting from Pluto's ingress into Capricorn and what does this all mean? As a reminder, Pluto being the most outer planet is very much a generational planet. Pluto is going to be spending 20 years in Aquarius. And with that being said, for me, if I'm looking at even when Pluto was in Scorpio, a big energy that people talked about around that time was the AIDS epidemic occurred when Pluto was in Scorpio. Scorpio being very much linked to sex, reproduction, death. And everything that happened during the AIDS epidemic, it's not like it finished when Pluto moved out of Sagittarius. If anything, new things were developed, new medication, new education, new hope, right? When Pluto moved into Sagittarius. So things will happen during a Pluto transit, but then the effects of that energy will then obviously expand into the decades and century afterwards. And this is why when we look at certain transits, especially the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, that what happens during those transits, of course, can be on a macro and micro level, but the effects of it can also take place later. And when we have these different activations, like when we had the moon activating Pluto before it went into its new moon phase on Friday, that's when we see it on an individual level in that part of our chart. So depending on your level of interest with Pluto, you can look at it from that individual sense in your own natal chart for 2024. If you're looking at it just from an individual sense, Pluto only moves up to 2 degrees of Aquarius, and then it's going to retrograde back into Capricorn in September. November 19th of 2024 goes back into Aquarius where it'll stay until 2044. So if you don't have any placements in fixed signs between 0 and 2 degrees, or any placements in air signs 0 to 2 degrees, it's likely that you won't feel these dynamic, intense activations this year in 2024. That's not to say that it still won't affect your Aquarius ruled house, but for those that have angles or planets in Aquarius between 0 and 2 degrees, or in fixed signs or air signs, you will feel it that much more intensely. And trust me, it'll be very loud, very obvious. For those of you that have those placements, you already know. like we like to say, if you know, you know. Now, if we're looking at it from a bigger, more expansive way, we are going to see, in my opinion, with Aquarius talking about the collective, the other, the underdog, humanitarian efforts. We then get to compare Aquarius to Leo, Leo being the ruler, the one in the spotlight, the Aquarius being the audience or everyone else in the kingdom that supports the king or the queen or whichever figure is in power. So we're going to be seeing certain systems collapse. It's also interesting too, if you look at certain celebrities, how majority of people are swinging in one direction or another. And I'm not going to name names. There's been a lot of celebrities over the past couple months that have been kind of like under fire or where their power has been completely shifted. And that's Pluto, right? Like this power, this truth, this obsession swinging one way or another. I will say, just as a personal theory, that those that are giving to the collective, people that are healers, people that are in the communities and wanting to help those, whether it be sharing knowledge, building systems, helping to rewrite laws, helping to build inclusivity, Pluto is going to allow these people to succeed and to grow more powerful. Those that are only wanting to maintain rigid, antiquated structures, those that only support like the 1%, those that have no desire to give back to others, that's where I think Pluto is going to shift because it left Capricorn, right? Now all those structures are going to be completely shifted to then make space for this Aquarian model, which also we think of Aquarius. There is this independence, there's this innovation, there's entrepreneurship, there's spirituality, there's mental health. All of those industries are going to go through a massive, massive expansion. And of course, technology is in there as well. People are talking about AI. So, I mean, I'll probably just end up creating a different entity for Pluto and Aquarius in terms of either a product or a post or whatever. But I wanted to give a bit more insight on that because there's just so much you can talk about, especially given that Pluto, excuse me, Pluto and Aquarius is a 20-year transit. So we're going to see that more and more and more. And I'm sure some of you are already feeling that for those of you where Pluto is strongly activating your chart. And that's where it gets to be really beautiful because I think, and I know that one of the best ways to learn astrology is to just embody those transits, to know when the moon is in Aries, that it's like, oh, yes, like when I get mad, I get mad. When I get happy, I get happy. Even if you don't have any Aries placements, it kind of gives you like a little sneak peek of what it's like to have a dominant Aries placement. Or I always appreciate when we go into Pisces season, which is going to start next week, because you really feel all the feelings and you can be so moved emotionally by something seemingly so small and you get to feel so intensely. And it's like, yes, like this is what Pisces feel every single day. So why I'm saying that is when you go through a Pluto transit, when you go through a Pluto activation on a micro level, it gives you more insight on how it's going to be affecting the collective. And if you're strategic or just on a individual level, you can use that energy, you can use that knowledge, you can use that power however you see fit. One last thing I'll end on is that if you know that these Aquarian themes are going to be amplified, if you know that Pluto's influence is going to be here, if you've reflected over the past 3 weeks and throughout this week of how everything is being activated in the sign of Aquarius, in that part of your chart, then you get to decide, does this shift, does this change, does this transformation make me feel good or not? If it doesn't, then what do I need to shift? What do I need to change to allow this power to benefit me? And if it feels good, then just keep doing that, right? Someone told me once in LA, it's like, don't leave fun for fun. If it feels good, keep doing that. Allow yourself to be infused with this Plutonian influence while remaining grounded, because sometimes all that power can definitely go to one's head. And this is Pluto in Aquarius. Aquarius is air energy. So long as you have that in the back of your mind, then you continually grow and expand with these transits, with Pluto, to become your most powerful, authentic self. All right. That's all I got. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much to all of you. And this isn't farewell. This is just going into the chrysalis, going into the cocoon before we emerge into the next elevated content that will be coming to you whenever it's ready. Okay. Thank you all. Sending you so much love, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.